I just want to remind you, as the Vice Chancellor was talking about the ties that bind us, many of us, when we have a doi-doi, we often say viva. And sometimes we say aluta continua. And I'm almost certain that some of us think it's a township lingo, maybe from Soweto, Mamelodi, or Attersville. It's actually the heritage that we got from the Mozambican struggle, particularly. So next time, don't plagiarize, acknowledge the source. Now, without any waste of time, we are going to call our next speaker and the CEO of the Steve Biko Foundation, Ms. Obenewa Amponsah. Let's put our hands together.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Professor Fikeni. I think in your hands, I'm safe in saying all protocols have been observed. But this evening, I would like to specifically acknowledge the Board of Trustees of the Steve Biko Foundation, represented this evening by our founder and former Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Obenewa Biko, the Chairman of the Board, who the Vice Chancellor kindly mentioned, Mr. Ishmael Nkabele, as well as Mr. Millard Arnold, Mrs. Nsiki Biko, and Mr. Murphy Morobe and Ben Kwapa, who are not with us this evening physically, but are certainly with us in spirit. I'd also like to extend, on behalf of all of my colleagues at the Foundation, really our deepest appreciation to the Biko family, and in particular Mrs. Nsiki Biko. Ma, if you would stand up and show your beautiful self to the people. We at the Foundation are by and large an organization led by young people. In fact, believe it or not, I'm one of the oldest ones there. And the family has extended to us their name, their credibility, their support. And they've extended to us the name of someone who really paid the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate price. Please know that we don't take that for granted. Your trust, your faith in us. We appreciate you, and we'll do our best to honor you in all of our work. Thank you. This evening, I'd also like to extend my appreciation to Vice Chancellor Makanya, to Professor Fikeni, and really all of the colleagues at UNISA for so firmly embracing the legacy of Steve Biko and us at the Steve Biko Foundation as we've worked to develop and deepen this partnership since 2014. Historically, one of the most common requests following the Steve Biko lecture was that it travel outside of the Western Cape, and by becoming part of the UNISA family, the largest tertiary institution in Africa, we at SPF are pleased that through the university's extensive network of campuses, over time, the lecture will have the opportunity to travel to communities the length and breadth of South Africa, and even as far as Addis Ababa. With that said, please know, Vice Chancellor, that we are absolutely delighted that tonight, as we embark on this new partnership, we do so in the nation's capital, where 38 years ago, just a few years away, Steve Biko died in detention. And the truth is that our gathering here tonight, nearly 4 decades later, is evidence of Biko's prophetic words, that it is better to die for an idea that will live than to live for an idea that will die. This evening, as we consider the contemporary relevance of Biko's legacy, I'd also like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to President Chisano, who is fresh from Angola as of this afternoon, commemorating their 40th anniversary of independence. Sir, I'd like to thank you for honoring our invitation to deliver this, the 16th annual Steve Biko Memorial Lecture. Some of you will recall that this is not the first time that President Chisano has joined us at the Foundation. In 2007, His Excellency participated in Consciousness Agency and the African Development Agenda, a conference that was part of Biko 3030, the campaign commemorating 3 decades since Biko's death. Yet I was fortunate enough to have worked with President Chisano even earlier on. It was actually during my very first job out of university in the city of Boston, where a number of former African heads of state would convene to reflect on issues of social, economic, and political development development. But I'm not going to expose my age, so just know that it was then, this is now. As I worked with President Chisano's office previously, when he came to South Africa in 2007, one of my tasks was to brief him on the program. But for some reason, I was very nervous, but I managed to kind of pull myself together. I put on what was my favorite suit at the time. It was a bit shiny, and I came to find out the hard way, kind of slippery. And I went to the meeting place to wait in the corridor until the appointed time. As the door to the main room began to open, I tried to jump up from my seat because, I wanted to look efficient, cool, calm, and with the program. But instead of gracefully striding across the room, I somehow slid off of my chair and spent a couple of moments on the floor. At the time, I convinced myself that no one had noticed, and if they didn't, I really am exposing myself tonight. But part of the reason that I was able to maintain some dignity was that in classic Chisano style, His Excellency did not blink when a somewhat shaky young woman walked into his office. But more than that, President Chisano actually took me seriously as a young African professional trying to make whatever contribution I could despite my slippery suit. In that moment, President Chisano perhaps does not know, but he instilled a lot of confidence in me, that when you fall down, you pick yourself back up and you keep on moving. That despite the missteps and mistakes of a young person, or a young country, or even a young continent, you could and should still be heard and valued. And in many ways, that is what the Steve Biko Memorial Lecture, and indeed all of our work at the Foundation, is about. It's about intergenerational dialogue, providing a space through which we as Africans can collectively examine the past in order to learn from it and to better understand the present. But more importantly, understanding the past and the present so that we may, in the words of Thomas Sankara, dare to invent the future. And indeed, from Rhodes must fall to fees must fall, to the recently fallen president of the University of Missouri, young people across the globe, from South Africa to Burkina Faso to Ferguson, Missouri, are inventing the future. They are, to quote Biko, looking forward to a non-racial, just, and egalitarian society in which color, creed, and race shall form no point of reference. And not only are young people looking forward to this future, they are striving daily to get there. With that said, the struggles of the 21st century are not the same as the struggles of the 20th. Having ostensibly attained political freedom throughout the continent and the diaspora, people of African descent are working to realize economic opportunity, to address social issues such as police brutality, and to attain cultural equality, while women continue to be marginalized personally, professionally, and politically. These are just a few of the fault lines of the 21st century, a few of the challenges that face us today. And in facing these challenges, it is our mission at the Steve Biko Foundation to provide spaces for young people to learn of the rich legacy of the African intellectual activist tradition, and to create spaces for those who have gone before to reflect on and record their experiences, so they might endow future generations with the inheritance of memory. To this end, at SPF, we focus on what I call the 3 C's. The first is consciousness, who am I? The second is community, what is my place in the world? And the third is core skills, the practical tools to make ideas reality. These elements of our work are taught through programmatic interventions in the area of arts and culture, community health, education, economic justice, and sports development. And while we are a national organization, much of this work is carried out at the Steve Biko Center, which is located in the Ginsburg Township of King Williamstown in the Eastern Cape, where friends, colleagues, and neighbors of Biko are gathered to watch this lecture tonight. In short, while there are 1,000 of us or so physically here in Z.K. Matthews Hall, many around the world are joining us virtually to think about what Biko meant in 1977 and what he means to each of us today. To be part of this ongoing conversation, I encourage you to take part in SPF's campaign, Biko to Me, which began on the 12th of September, which was the 30th anniversary of his death in detention, and which will conclude on December 18th, his 69th birthday. We want to hear via YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or good old-fashioned snail mail what Biko means to you, and to share that with our community across the globe as we continually examine the legacy of this martyr. In this way, we will heed Biko's admonishment to continue on the quest for true humanity, because somewhere on the distant horizon, we can see the glittering prize. I thank you.